Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar both fought to build a free Indian nation, but they clashed over the country's deepest social fracture, the caste system. In 1893, a 24-year-old Gandhi was physically thrown off a train in South Africa because he was an Indian sitting in a whites-only compartment. A decade later, in India, a 10-year-old Ambedkar was forced out of a hired bullock cart on his way to Koregaon. The driver refused to carry him the moment he learned the boy belonged to the Malhar caste, a community the social order deemed untouchable. This discrimination was a daily routine. At school, he was barred from touching the communal tap. A peon had to pour the water into his hands from a distance. If the peon was absent, Ambedkar went thirsty all day. He was forbidden from sitting on the classroom furniture. He brought a burlap sack from home to sit on so his presence wouldn't pollute the floor for the upper caste students. Gandhi's political awakening was born from colonial, foreign oppression. Ambedkar's trauma came from his own countrymen, enforced by a domestic hierarchy thousands of years old. Their starting points guaranteed their visions for a free India would collide. Eradicating that 5,000-year-old hierarchy became the defining debate between the two men. Gandhi believed in moral reform. As a religious Hindu, he viewed the ancient four-tier Varna system as a natural division of labor. Untouchability to him was a moral sin, a distortion that upper castes needed to cure through spiritual unity and empathy. Ambedkar, who had earned doctorates from Columbia University and the London School of Economics, saw the system as rigged. To him, the hierarchy wasn't a mistake, it was the intended design. Ambedkar argued that moral appeals were useless. The inequality practiced by the upper castes was explicitly codified as a religious rule in ancient texts like the Vedas and Manusmriti. They were arguing two different methods. One wanted to change the hearts of the oppressors. The other wanted to dismantle the societal structure that gave them power in the first place. By 1927, Ambedkar decided to test the limits of upper caste empathy through direct agitation. In the Mahad municipality, he led thousands of Dalit followers to a public water tank. They peacefully marched to the reservoir and drank the water that was locally forbidden to them. The local upper caste residents responded with violence. To cleanse the perceived pollution, they performed a ritual purification, dumping cow dung and milk into the water. Later that year, Ambedkar escalated his protest. On December 25th, he and his followers publicly burned the Manusmriti, the text that established the laws of caste discrimination. These events solidified Ambedkar's thesis. Symbolic protests and appeals to conscience were ineffective against entrenched dogma. The marginalized could only survive by acquiring hard political power. In 1931, the battle over that power moved to the global stage at the Round Table Conference in London. Ambedkar arrived with a strict demand: separate electorates for the Dalit community. This created specific constituencies where only a Dalit candidate could run, and only Dalit citizens could vote. Ambedkar argued this isolation guaranteed authentic political representation, free from the financial and social interference of the upper caste majority. Gandhi fought the proposal fiercely. He believed that carving out a separate legal status for untouchables would permanently fracture Hindu society and ruin the united front against British rule. The British government ultimately sided with Ambedkar. In 1932, Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald announced the Communal Award, officially granting separate electorates to the Dalit minority. Ambedkar secured the structural power he sought, but the victory instantly triggered the most dangerous political crisis of his life. To block the Communal Award, Gandhi launched a fast unto death inside the Yerwada jail. This placed an impossible dilemma on Ambedkar. If Gandhi died, the resulting public fury would likely lead to massive retaliatory violence against the Dalit population. Under immense pressure, Ambedkar traveled to the jail and signed the 1932 Pune Pact. He surrendered the separate electorates in exchange for an increased number of reserved seats in a joint legislature. While history often records this as a moment of national unity, for Ambedkar it was a bitter realization that political rights could be taken away through emotional pressure. The Pune Pact taught Ambedkar that Marathimized people could not rely on shifting political promises. They required immutable legal protection. Following independence, Ambedkar was appointed as the chairman of the drafting committee for the Indian Constitution. He used this position to embed the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity directly into the preamble of the document. He then drafted Article 17, which explicitly abolished untouchability and criminalized the very discrimination he had suffered as a child. Ambedkar codified his personal history into written statutes. By making these rights constitutional, he placed them beyond the reach of majority opinion or political whim. Late in his life, Gandhi's views continued to evolve. He eventually refused to attend weddings in his ashram unless one of the partners was a Dalit, seeking social unity through intercaste marriage. Ambedkar continued pushing for structural legal overhauls. He worked with Jawaharlal Nehru on the Hindu Code Bill to secure equal property and marriage rights for women. Gandhi successfully mobilized the masses to evict the British colonial administration, but it was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar who engineered the statutes that prevented the marginalized from being handed over to a new set of domestic masters. Though social struggle continues, his text remains the primary instrument for 1.4 billion people to challenge oppression in courtrooms and city squares today.